Okay, meanwhile, I would like to thank you guys for being with us this evening. I am Yves Martineau, and I am with Céline de Ravidizian Ada. Hi, Céline.
Hi, I'm happy to be with you tonight.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the new regulations that fell on us on March the 21st. New regulations effective from the 20th of March. What do they imply, and what alternatives can we provide to our clients? So, one change that is not that new, which is effective since December the 5th, is about the language exams. Those language exams are mandatory for everyone. Even if you have a French, a person from Belgium, an American, an English person who has been living and working and studying in French and or English for all their lives, they have to pass a language test. So for French, the exams that we most recommend are the TEFAC and the TCFQ. We recommend them because they were made especially for the Quebec immigration program. They take into account only the speaking and listening skills, and they tell your clients exactly what their level is in both listening and speaking. The DELF is an okay exam. However, we tend not to recommend it too much. Obviously, in cities where you have the option of choosing different exams, sometimes you've got the DELF and that's it. Otherwise, you have to travel tens or hundreds of kilometers to another place. But when you have a chance to choose between exams, we tend not to prefer the DELF because a DELF diploma will tell you a level, but it will not always tell you the level of your client. What do I mean by that? You can have a B1, which is a low intermediate French level, a diploma for a B1 level, but you won't know if your client has a B2 or even a C1 level. It will only tell you, it will only testify to a B1 level. So we tend not to prefer a DELF exam, but if it's the only exam you have available in your region or in the region of the client, then you go with it. You always have also the TEF and the TCF, which is the big exam that takes into account the writing and reading skills of your client. Just make sure that you tell them to purchase also the listening the speaking exam, which is the expression orale. It is very important because it is what is taken into account for the Quebec selection grid. It's a bit the same for the federal skilled worker, actually. A little reminder about the point grids for the spouse. Before December 5th, we were used to having 2 points for an A1 or A2 level of the spouse, 4 points for a B1 or B2 level, and to get 6 points, the maximum points, the spouse would need a C1 level or more. Now, since December 5th, the spouse will get maximum points, 6 points, with a B2 level or more. So just to keep that in mind. About English, the IELTS, you have to be very clear with your client that even though they say to you, I have an advanced level of English, say to them, you know what, pass the exam before, because it's very, very difficult to get 6 points for the English criteria. 8.0 at the listening skill is very difficult. Just to give you an idea of how difficult it is, the master's degree in communications at Concordia University in Montreal requires 8.0. Most MBAs on the planet require a 7.0. So even with the 7.0, your client will have an intermediate level of English according to the Quebec selection grid and get only 4 points. So what we do usually is that when we make a pre-evaluation or a preliminary evaluation of our clients, we usually put them at 4 points for English, and then we will adjust based on their IELTS exam. Yeah, you can continue. Katerina has a question about translations. We're going to talk about the translation. It is mandatory since the end of February or beginning of March. So every document not in English or French has to be translated into French or English. Katerina is asking translation of docs that are not in English and French. Now all documents need to be translated by OTAC members only. No, it can be translated by an official translator in the country of your client. Many consular services of the Canadian embassies will provide you with a list of official translators. In most European countries, you will have a regulatory body for translators. In some countries, translators are not that well regulated, but you can always refer to the consular service of the Canadian embassy to have a list of translators. Or you can go with well, not any, but many foreign services, for example, with the American embassy or the Australian embassy. Is the computerized version of TIFAC acceptable? Yes, it is. Okay, so this is for the translations. It's pretty straightforward. Now we have also new requirements since the beginning of March for copies. All copies have to be certified or notarized. Well, not all copies. Some documents can be simple photocopies. For example, the passport, the pay slips can be simple photocopies. When you see a certified copy or a notarized or sworn copy, it means that the person that will certify the copy has to write in, like the wording can be different, but it has to mean that this is a true copy of an original document. It is an authentic copy. It is a certified copy of an original document. The person certifying has to write their name, sign it. They have to write their title or position. They have to put the name of the original document, and they have to sign and date the document. It is mandatory in order to have a certified copy according to the criteria of Quebec immigration. Sometimes in some countries with some institutions, it may be difficult to get that. If you cannot have exactly the wording and the requirements of a certified true copy, you may write an explanation letter for, just as it is the same for any situation where we cannot have the required information or documentation. But the ideal is to have all these elements. Most certified true copies, no, the main certified true copies are for birth certificates, diplomas and transcripts, and the social security contributions proofs. And what a certified true copy means is that it has to be issued, the copy has to be issued and certified by the institution that issued the original. So for the birth certificate, for example, you have to go with the birth registrar in the country where your client was born. The name of that institution varies. For diplomas and transcripts, you have to go with the registrar office, with school services. For the social security contributions, you have to go with the Ministry or Secretary of Employment or Health or Social Security. Sometimes you go with the institution that emits the salary with the employer of the client. So these documents have to be certified true copies and notarized or sworn copies. As you know, it can be done by a notary or a commissioner for oaths in Canada or the US and in some other countries. Notarized copies are required for residence permit for people who are living outside their country of nationality, because they have to demonstrate that they have a legal migratory status. Most marriage and divorce documents have to be notarized. However, in some countries, it is easier and cheaper to get a certified true copies of marriage and divorce certificates, so these can work too. And for people who are business owners, the business permit and registration have to be in notarized copies.
What about the certified true copies by consulate or an embassy, or same for the notarized version, because you can time to time go to your consulate.
That is true. However, if it's when you talk about a certified true copies, sometimes your consular services can do it, but the ideal really is to go with the birth registrar. Usually, if you go with the consular services of the country of origin of the person, it is good to write an explanation saying that it was not possible, for example, to get these documents, say because you need to go in person, you cannot give a power of attorney to a third person. So you have to give an explanation, but I would assume that it is also accepted. I say I would assume because where we're all in the same boat here. We've been studying a lot and asking questions and making phone calls to make this presentation tonight, and we'll have even more information for the more in-depth seminar that we're going to do in May. But we're all in the same boat. We are certified consultants just like you. This is all new. None of us has submitted an application for which we have had an answer. It's too new, so we're all somewhat in the dark with all the details of it, but we go with the best of our information. Here, Katerina is asking, apostille documents are not accepted instead of copy of diploma certified by educational establishment. I know that in some countries, you can go with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to have an apostillation. It is not only is it not necessary, but it usually won't be accepted. Mainly because Canada is not a member, did not sign the Hague Convention on Foreign Diplomas, and really it has to be the institution or the Ministry of Education in cases when the college, for example, does not exist anymore. So the big change also since March 21st, effective since March 20, is the limitations or the limits on some economic class applicants. For investors, the cap was 2,700. It took not even 1 month.
3 weeks exactly.
3 weeks for the cap to be reached. It was expected for the federal program on July 1st, the cap was reached, so we could not expect the Quebec program to last for a very long time. For entrepreneurs and self-employed persons, the limit will be 215, and as of today, we had 59 applications registered on the website. Always remember that if it says 59 on the website, it usually won't be 59. That we know based on the experience on the federal skilled worker program. How many of us sent a 1122 on the first week of August, for example, and it was returned because the cap was reached, even though on the website we were still far from the 500. So we have some experience with that. Okay, just to get back to the copies, an attorney can make not a certified copy, but a notarized or sworn copy, yes. Return if you were lucky. That is very true, David. So about the skilled workers, for 2 or 6-point professions, the limit is 14,300. As of today, there were no updated applications received on the MICC website. So we have to be, yeah.
I think they even don't know themselves how many files they have.
That is very true. That is very true. And we were just saying that this is all new for us. And this is also new, not only for us and our clients, but also for the same MICC employees. So we have to bear with them. I don't know if any of you tried to write or call an MICC office in Quebec or abroad. Good luck with an answer. So yeah, we were pretty much on our own. And this is why also we try to make these little events and seminars for us to share our experiences together. As I said, this is all new. None of us has deposited an application for which we have had an answer at this point, but as the months will be going by, we'll have more and more inputs and experiences so that we can share together. So you know that when we talk about the points for the diplomas, we have the 2 or 6 point diplomas for which there's a limitation, and the 12 and 16 point diplomas have no limits. So this is a good news for people who study the chemistry, nursing, aeronautics,
or butcher.
Or butcher, if there's such thing as a butcher diploma in the country of your client. Now we have, you remember that we have 2 columns, the foreign diploma column and the Quebec diploma column. So let's give us a reminder of what a Quebec diploma is. So first of all, it has to be at least 1 year of study, 1 year of full-time education. In terms of vocational diplomas, it has to be 900 hours at least. Even though we've seen, at least with the Bureau d'Immigration du Québec in Mexico, there is some leniency if the number of hours of the vocational diploma is lower than the minimum number of years, if there is pertinent work experience that complements the studies. But bottom line is, it has usually to be a 1 year for a Quebec diploma. It has to be a 1 year of study, and it can be issued by any Canadian or Canadian provincial or territorial Ministry of Education, not only Quebec. So if you have a client who graduated in a university in Manitoba, for example, it's going to count as a Quebec diploma. Sometimes also Canadian diplomas are issued abroad. Here in Quebec, I know of the Université du Québec in Chicoutimi, the La Salle College, the UQAM, that have some agreements with foreign universities and institutions, or in the case of La Salle College, they are implemented in some countries, and they issue diplomas recognized by the Quebec Ministry of Education. So these do count as Quebec diplomas. Also, if you have a client with a regulated profession, if you have a recognition of credentials issued by the professional regulatory body of that profession, then the diploma will count as a Quebec diploma. Exception is for physicians and specialists in medicine. However, for doctors with a restrictive permit, it is considered as a Quebec diploma. You know what a restricted permit is? For example, a doctor can practice only in that hospital, in that department, under the supervision of
as a sort of internship.
Exactly, as a sort of supervised internship, exactly. So these restrictive permits are considered as a Quebec diploma for points. And in case of medicine, we know that it counts for 16 points as a Quebec diploma. Okay, there are some questions here. How many federal investors are accepted for this year?
There is the moratorium.
Yeah, there's a moratorium. I don't know.
There is absolutely no one, because there is a moratorium for this year, and we have no news when the program will be open again. It's year, but who knows, with all the changes coming from the federal government.
Yeah, that's the answer. Who knows? Yeah. Katerina, can you please explain again about Manitoba example, Quebec diploma in Manitoba? Okay. In order to be considered a Quebec diploma in the list of training, you know, the right column in the list of training, it says Quebec diploma or equivalent, and equivalent means a diploma issued by a teaching institution recognized by a Ministry of Education in any province or territory in Canada. So that means that if a person studied, for example, a university degree in Manitoba, this university degree will count in the right column, in the Quebec diploma column, in the list of trainings. You know, when you go on the MICC website, to know if a profession will give 16, 12, 6, or 2 points. On the right column, you have the Quebec Diploma, and any diploma issued by a Canadian institution recognized by the Ministry of Education, then it's going to count as a Quebec Diploma. So any Canadian diploma is good, as long as it's 1 year, and if it is in the list of trainings, because for example, if I have a 1-year community college diploma, which is not on the list of trainings of the MICC, then it won't give points. Okay, yeah, maybe one last thing about the arrangement de reconnaissance mutuelle. I could translate it into agreement of mutual recognition. This is when two regulatory bodies have a recognition, for example, and to this day, it only exists with France. So if you don't have clients in France, this won't be pertinent to you. So an engineer graduated from a French university can have this agreement of mutual recognition.
It could be the case, for example, if you have a client who is a Chinese or Indian and did his studies in France. So that can be very the perfect case to use this way, the arrangement de reconnaissance mutuelle.
Exactly.
Even if he's no more living in France.
Okay, so when we talk about the list of areas of training, a little reminder. In order to get the points, obviously your diploma has to be in the list, and it has to have been obtained within the past 5 years. And the time that is considered is the end of classes or the end of the exams. I'm thinking about some countries like Romania, for example. When you finish your exams, you know that you passed, but you have to wait for at least 1 year, sometimes 2 years, to get your diploma. So it is not the time when you get the diploma, it is the time when you finish your studies that is taken into account. There is some leniency on the part of the MICC. For example, if the client finished their classes in May, then they finish their exams in June, let's say June 2007, and the application is received at the Quebec Immigration Office, say in August of this year, usually there is some leniency if we're talking within the same year. Okay, here we have a little question. Same diploma following the same duration of studies appear both in the list of educations, fetching 12 and 16 points, and in that of those getting 6 points. How many points to allot to the same profession appearing in both lists? It depends. If it's a Quebec diploma, it goes on the right list, and if it is a foreign diploma, it goes on the left list. So usually the right list, the list on the right will give more points. I don't know if I answered your question appropriately. Quasi is asking, degree awarded in a foreign country like medical doctor, do they need to be assessed by Quebec authority before submitting this application? This is what we're saying for doctors. Even though they have their credentials recognized by the Collège des Médecins, it won't count. The only instance when doctors can have the equivalency for a Quebec diploma is when there's a restrictive permit to practice medicine. So getting back to the 2, 6, 12, or 16 points, so the diploma has to be finished. The classes have to have been completed within 5 years from the time the application is submitted. And if it was more than 5 years ago, then you have to have at least 1 year of full-time or full-time equivalent of work experience within your area of training. So if it's, for example, if somebody studied chemistry in 2000 and after that they could not find a job in their area, they worked as a, I don't know, as a cook, and up until 2009, but in 2009 they finally got a job as a chemist, then if they worked as a chemist at least during 1 year, they will have the points for the diploma.
And as he worked minimum 1 year in the last 5 years before the application?
Within the past 5 years, exactly. Very good point. Yeah. It has to be 1 year of full-time experience within the last 5 years. So when you do the job letter, when you coach, when you help your client doing the job letter, you have to make sure that the duties and responsibilities will fit the NOC description. Just like for the federal process, it's not a copy paste, but the officer has to recognize, has to be able to make a match between the job descriptions in your job letter and match it with the duties and responsibilities as they appear in the NOC list. Full-time in Quebec means 30 hours per week, as opposed to the federal skilled worker program that says 37.5 hours per week. So 30 hours per week is a bit more flexible. When we talk about equivalent, to know how many months of work experience have to be taken into account, we just make this little formula. We take the number of hours per week, we divide it by 30, and we multiply by the number of months of work. So, for example, if somebody was working part-time at 20 hours per week, we make 20 divided by 30, multiplied by the number of months that they work, and this will give us the number of months equivalent of full-time work experience. Okay, so here we have, what about if a pharmacist got his degree from abroad? Will his degree be counted? Okay, here we have to consider is, okay, if it's not a Quebec diploma, then it is in the left column. And a pharmacist degree in the column of the foreign diplomas gives 0 point. So it won't be possible for pharmacists in this case to apply under the regular Quebec Skilled Worker Program. For that person, we will need to look into another type of program, but not under the regular one. 1 year full time, it does not have to be consecutive. No, it does not have to be consecutive. I would need to verify the GPE for that. I think so, but I don't want to give a bad answer, Catherine. I would need to reread the GPE. It's GPE 3.1 in the Publication du Québec website. You can find the GPI, the Guide des procédures d'immigration. Do you remember if it's consecutive?
Like it was the question I was wondering too. So
I think so, but don't take my answer for granted. I would need to double check in the GPE to be totally sure. I'm a Persian certified translator, member of OTIAC. To better serve my customers, I wanted to make sure if, after the new changes, those who apply for immigration of Canada also need their document to be certified by an OTIAC member. For immigration purposes, the OTIAC translation will obviously be considered, but it does not have to be a translation done by an OTIAC member. Certified translators, certified in their country, who make translations, are taken into consideration by the MICC. They are accepted. And Ala is asking, in some countries, the diplomas are issued only after the graduates have worked for 2 years after the graduation because of tuition-free studies. How to prove that the graduate has graduated from the university and is entitled to get the correct points for the factor of education? That is a very good question. I know that for Romania, for example, usually if you have a attestation of, it's called in French, attestation de réussite, a certification of completion and successful completion, usually it will be taken into account. But it would very much depend from country to country. I do not have any experience with diplomas that meet the description that you're giving me here. I don't know if you have
the agents are supposed to have experience with the countries. So if you are used to deal with these countries, you will know exactly what are the recommendations. The best thing is time to time to ask the question directly to them.
Yeah, you can write to the Quebec Immigration Office. They do answer. They may take time to answer, but they do answer unlike their federal counterpart, with all due respect. Also, these norms are not new. This is really a reminder that we're giving, but the norms to give the 2, 6, 12, or 16 points, they're not new. They've been in place for 3 or 4 years already.
The change is coming now.
Yeah, it may be changing. Yeah, please. Okay, so will a certification from the university be good? Yeah, if it is issued by the university, yes. When we talk about translation, okay, we'll get back to your questions. Okay, so what solutions can we provide to the clients? If there is enough funds, if getting a study permit is feasible, you can suggest to come study in Quebec. We'll talk about studies in Quebec to be admissible. Studies in Quebec may also give access to the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise, the Quebec Experience Program. We'll give a little explanation about that. You just have to make sure that when you recommend studies in Quebec, it has to be clearly a two-step projects. There's the project of studying, and there's the project of permanent residence. In order to get the study permit, remember that you have to demonstrate to the officer, to the immigration officer at the Canadian Embassy, that the person will come back to their country, and they have to write their motivation for their studies in Canada. These motivations have to emphasize the benefits in their home country. You cannot say, I want to study because it will give me access to permanent residence to Canada. If you say that, it's going to be a refusal. And it has to be a genuine interest. It has to be an authentic interest. So the person has to study because they want to study, and they would still want to study even though they could not access permanent residence. There still will need to be a benefit. Of course, it is a big motivation to know that it will possibly give access to permanent residency, but the studies per se have to be beneficial to the client anyway. The GPE says that the candidate did make the profession during at least 1 year full time. Yeah, I would agree with Mihaila's interpretation.
Which is incomplete, in fact. This is a very, very used way from MICC to write, to interpret some point of the law.
And I do not know the jurisprudence on that.
I think that we need seriously to check with the law and the rule, with the act, with the Immigration Act, Quebec Canada Immigration Act, and the rules. Yeah, exactly. We agree with you, Mihaela. It's absolutely true. And if this is incomplete, can you imagine if the agent is using this document? So this is good. In other hand, good for us, because if this is incomplete, we can interpret by our point of view too. So we can say, look, this person in the last 5 years worked 3 months as an assistant in this way, 3 months again in the same specialty, and for a total of 1 year in the last 5 years.
So yes, I would also interpret as if, for example, if somebody worked 6 months in 2009 and another 6 months in 2011, I would say that it does count. Yeah, that is true. Calling MICC is getting us even more confused. Katerina is asking, do we have any jurisprudence that allows us to say that the client comes to study and then apply for PEC, like for the caregiver program? No, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Here, it's a different game. For studies, it really has to be clearly said that there will be a benefit in the home country of the person. Okay. Sorry.
I bring some water.
Okay, so another option is also with a validated job offer or work permit. So it's the same thing with an LMO or an LMO exemption. For that, you can review the 44 professions that do not require an LMO in Quebec. It's been like it for about 5 or 6 weeks. It's good to review that. A little word about the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise. If your client has been working with a valid work permit for 1 year, then they can apply for a permanent residency. It may be advised to, it may be good to advise your client to study in their home country, but I would say that with a lot of reservation. I would say that with many warnings. First, because you're never sure, you're never sure that the studies will meet the will be considered as equivalent or similar to a Quebec diploma. Also, the list of areas of training is likely to change in October of this year. So you don't want to tell your clients, go study a diploma as a mechanics, for example, and then 6 months later, after they've paid their tuition fees, after they've quit their job to start to study, then mechanics is not in the list anymore. So you don't want to advise, you don't want to be caught in that situation. So if you do give this advice to your client, give all the warnings necessary not to be caught in a bad situation afterwards. Another solution or alternative, I call it hope and faith. As I said, in October 2012, the list of areas of training will likely change. So maybe if your client's diploma is not in the list today, maybe it will be in October. And also on March 30th of 2013, maybe the doors will be open again. The MICC has to reach certain objectives in terms of immigration. They want to get about 50,000 immigrants every year. So maybe with those restrictions, they will get much fewer applications than they wanted. So maybe after that, they will reopen the doors. We don't know. Also, there's been, or they may add more professions, as Mihaela is telling us. Also, it's been rumored, and I want to say that with a lot of care, because there is no official information on that. I'm not saying that just because I had a dream last night. There's been information from MICC civil servants that are saying that there is some consideration for people who have registered in past a French and or English exam between December 5th, 2011 and March 20, 2012, that for these people, even though their profession puts them in group 3, meaning that their profession does not give points, but they do reach the minimal points to deposit their CSQ application, maybe their application will be received. But I'm telling you that I am not sure if it is valid information. I have no way to verify that. But what we're thinking is that if you have a file that has been in preparation for some time and now it is ready, and it is ready now, tell your client it may be refused. Tell your client what the risks are, but I would go with submitting the application anyway.
Just precise in the letter, very diplomatically, as the language exams has been done between December 5th and March 20, we think that the application will be received from your office. So perhaps we hope that it will make an effect.
Yes. Abir, there, as far as I know, there is no English versions for Group 1 and 2. Oh, okay, good. Wonderful. You've got your answer. Okay, so just a word about studies in Quebec. And here I'm not, this slide is not about the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise. This slide is about people who can apply under the regular skilled worker program of Quebec.
Very important, thank you to precise that, because we can easily confuse with the Expérience Québécoise.
Okay, so in order to be able to submit the application so that your application is eligible, your client has to be residing in Quebec. They have to be, at the moment of the application, in Quebec with a valid study permit or work permit. And they have to have studied or be studying a vocational diploma of at least 900 hours. I wrote hours, but my French English skipped here. So it's 900 hours minimum for vocational diplomas. A college diploma of at least 1 year, full-time, always full-time studies. 1 year means 2 full-time semesters. A postgraduate diploma of 1 year. When we talk about a university degree at a postgraduate level, we mean 30 credits of studies, postgraduate diploma, are not considered a undergraduate certificate of 1 year. So if your client has studied a, I don't know, certificat en traduction, a translation certificate of 1 year at the undergraduate level, it is not going to give them access to the regular skilled worker program for Quebec. Okay, so maybe just to make a little reminder of the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise, the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise is different in the sense that there is no time limit. You can apply under the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise anytime you want. There's no points because, just a reminder here, with what we have on this slide, it is when your client makes the point. That means at least 49 points as a single applicant or 57 points as a couple. So if they're studied, for example, 900 hours and they make only, let's say, 40 points, they won't be able to deposit their application. Whereas with the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise, points don't matter. They just need a B1 level. They can apply anytime in 20 years, 40 years if they want, but they have to have studied a vocational diploma of 1,800 hours.
Which is 2 years.
Which is 2 years full-time. A college diploma, a technical diploma of 3 years full-time. An undergraduate diploma of 3 years or more, or a master's degree or a PhD.
And they can apply for the permanent residency via the Programme Expérience Québécoise only 6 months before the end of their exam.
Very good point. Under the Programme d'Expérience Québécoise, you can apply 6 months before you finish your diploma. And then at the time you get your diploma, usually it takes about 4 or 5 weeks to get the CSQ. Exactly. It's very, very fast.
So another advice is to prepare same time the process, the federal process. So as soon as you receive the CSQ, just to put the document in the envelope and send immediately to the federal.
Yeah. And that's the end of our presentation. I don't know if there's any question or comment that you would like to share with us.
Yes, I just want to give some little precision regarding what we did tonight. So as it was a special edition regarding the Quebec information, it was very important for us to make this point together to explain to you, because when Yves and myself, we started to think about what is coming. And as you know, the tsunami who is coming from the federal government too, I think that we are a little bit tired with all the changes and the coming. So when we discovered that the CSQ announcement was not easy, as some of you suggested tonight, saying that it will make really difficult to select the clients and to direct them to the right CSQ. Yes, that's true. That's true, and the diploma question will be really difficult to solve. First of all, do not forget that the agents who are working currently in the visa, not the visa office, sorry, in the Bureau d'Immigration Québec, some of them are new staff. do not forget that they closed, for example, Vienna office, so they Sao Paulo, etc. And the operational services are located mainly in Montreal, in Mexico, and in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is the three main places, locations. So some people has been transferred, but mainly they recruited new staff and local staff, and these people didn't know even time to time what is really a diploma or whatever. So they are currently training. If for us it's difficult, so can you imagine what it will be for them? And the patience, the negotiation, diplomatic will be really effective and really helpful for us to communicate with them. So even if the government say they don't need to have representatives, immigration representatives or whatever, I think that now our position will be more helpful than never it has been in our profession. So try to be really careful, try to be updated with all the changes. It will be our pleasure in myself and all the Capital staff to try to really update you with our workshops, with our special editions, webinars, etc. Just to be helpful to you. If we are helpful to you, you will be better, and it will better. How can I say that? Sorry. It will improve our profession and our professionalism. So that's a very important point for you if you have questions or whatever, to use the forum that will invite to you to write all the questions you have, your suggestions, the rumors you heard. We will verify and try to really define all this matter. In another hand, sorry, I invite you to come to the workshop. This is not a presentation like tonight. It will be really a real workshop. People who already participated, like Katarina, for example. Hi, Katarina, knows how we work. So we really cut each detail. Perhaps if you can speak about this workshop.
Yeah, these workshops actually, and I will get back to your questions in a moment. The workshops are really more in-depth analysis of all these themes, and we make case studies. And also, it's a great opportunity for us all together to share our experiences and views and thoughts on these issues. As I was saying before, we're all in the same boats. We don't have divine knowledge, and we're all learning together. And when we have these occasions to share our knowledge, then it's good for all of us. We can all improve together.
We work a lot about case studies and analyze profiles. So we will create candidate profiles, and we will try to find the best way to inform the client and to see with the new selection grids, etc., how we can counsel these clients. In another hand, do not forget that the new politics in immigration, even this is the federal one or the provincial, Quebec especially, they want absolutely to focus to welcome people with the temporary work permits. The goal is what? It's simply to have people who will immediately be able to work, to pay taxes, to have children in school, and to have a regular life in Canada. And when these people 1 year later will be happy, will continue to pay the taxes and continue to work, of course, the Programme Expérience Québécoise, the PEC, PEQ, is the very, very dreamed program to make easily access to the permanent residency. And just by this way, you probably read this week that Minister Kenney announced that the Canadian experience will be lowered to 1 year instead of 2 years. So now this is the federal government who is trying to do the same thing as the provincial Quebec politics.
Exactly. There seems to be kind of competition between the two programs.
Yeah, and that's good for the business.
Yes. Thank you, Katerina. And Katerina had a question before. I mean, yeah, indeed, that is correct, Katerina. With the if you study a vocational 900 hours, a college diploma 1 year, postgraduate diploma 1 year, you do not need to have a diploma that has 2, 6, 12, or 16 points. You still need to reach the total amount of points, being 49 points as a single applicant or 57 points as a couple. but the area of training becomes, it is not essential to have an area of training that gives points anymore. Merci. Thanks
So
to you.
we thank you
Thanks to you
too.
guys.
The next workshop will be held on May 17 in English. So this is especially on this subject that Eve will do the presentation, and we'll have the same in French on the 15th of May. So to register, you know the link. So it's capideal.com, capideal.com, and just you can go on formation continue. Continuing education, and it will be our pleasure to welcome you. So you can have access by webinar live to all our workshops. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time and consideration too.
Thanks to you, and thanks to you guys. Maybe one last word. In May, we likely will be the workshops in May likely will give CDP points. Tonight it was too quick, too fast to be able to have CDP points approved, but very likely in May we'll have CDP points for the
coming workshops. And this night it was not really a workshop, it was really a special edition that, like the news, as you see, we have the wonderful New York in our back, but in fact you are in Montreal City. So welcome to Quebec, and hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Take good care. Bye-bye.